Greetings. I am Tom Earl, and this is the celebration. I know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today, sharing your gifts, your time, your energy, all these things too that we just can't even name. I appreciate you, and I want you to know and remind you you are valued, you are appreciated, and you are loved just as you are. Welcome back, my friends. We have Janna here for... we're just going to be totally transparent with y'all. Should we be transparent with the good folks out there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so here's what happened. So I said to Janna almost 2 hours ago, over 2 hours ago, I was like, hey, so we're gonna talk for like an hour and change, and we're gonna put it into 2 episodes. So we did that very well. And then on the second episode, which is supposed to be the last episode, we ended up talking for like an hour. And I was like, oh, my goal is to put out half-hour episodes, because then, for one, Adora will listen to them. So anytime my episodes are longer than a half hour, like the other day I heard her listening to an episode, I was like, oh, I'm her number one fan. So when someone I'm a number one fan of listens to I love it. So she's like, well, it's a half hour. Of course I'll listen to it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep my episodes to a half hour. So we're going to somewhere cut that episode. I don't know where. So you're jumping into, we did a random cut. So is that a good honesty? This is what happened.
Yeah. It's the truth.
So let's do a little bit of a quick bridge. I don't know where we're going to cut it. So we'll do something fun here. Do you have a fun question we can talk about for a minute each, or I'll think of one while you're thinking of one, unless you got one right off?
I don't.
Okay, I got one for you. I'm going to give an example of something.
Okay.
Somewhere in here we talked about, and you'll find out, like, what is something that you do? You asked me, and y'all will hear it if you already heard it or you will hear it, where you said like that you do kind of like without any hope of it making you money. That's kind of like one. Okay. So this is different, but a gauge I've created for myself for this year, that is a gauge that I have filled my life with too much clutter, is I want to have time throughout the week to make homemade meals. Because 2022 and the year before was like my year of like, I would buy frozen meals that would be shipped to me and I would heat them. So I was like, I want to be able to make food for my family. So that's kind of like my gauge for like, as long as I can cook, I'm keeping my life and my priorities in a good place. Do you have a gauge, or do you want to think of a gauge, or anything in your life that's like, you want to say like, I always want to have time each week for what?
I always want to have time each week. You said cook, but to cook, because I do not cook. Chris is the cook. And so we have decided that I would be in charge of dinner one day a week. And so I never want to be too busy to provide that one meal for my family every week.
Well, that can be something. We talk about music all the time. When we get together next, let's both talk about a meal we made and that created a wonderful experience.
Yes.
How's that?
Yes. And finding new meals so that I can always challenge myself.
I made some vegan enchiladas that really took me out of my comfort zone, and it went well, and I made too much. So we actually invited another family who have kids the same age as Jaima over. So already it's like creating this stir. I'm like, well, now somebody's got to eat it. So let's just invite people over. So already it's creating a nice ripple effect. So when we talk next time, we'll see what a food story that you got.
And now the pressure is on, because I have to come back with something good.
There we go. We'll hold each other accountable in this.
Yes.
Okay. Well, why don't we'll turn off our cameras, and this is going to be probably an awkward transition, not an awkward transition. I'll let Chi-Chi, our editor, decide where we're going to transition this into kind of the middle of a conversation that was naturally flowing, but that editing purposes, we're transitioning. So Chi-Chi, we'll leave it to you to decide, and here comes the rest of this episode. There's one thing was listening to a lot that kept saying it's not what you're doing, it's how you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can find myself a lot of times being like, if only I was able to spend my time doing something different, then I'd finally feel the relief that I've been after. And it's like that the mindset you carry, you'll take with you everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like on the last episode, we were talking about heaven. And one thing someone posed to me that blew my mind was like, imagine this, you're in heaven right now and you have the same mindset you have right now. How long would it take you to find a problem to solve because you're bored?
I'd be like at the admin office in heaven, like, hey, so I was just thinking about some ways we can, just improve things around here. And, I had some thoughts I just want to share with you.
I promise I have no pitch, no hidden pitch, but can I get a meeting?
Right. Can you send me your calendar link? I just want to talk through some things with you.
So it's like, it's not about going somewhere, Tom. It's not about, like, my big goal now is I want to hike Patagonia. That's my big goal.
Okay.
And it's like, when you are in Patagonia, you will find problems. So find a way to have a day where you don't go looking for problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll be at peace anywhere, in any job, in any circumstance. Maybe you'll be mad, you'll be upset, but underneath it, can you find that stillness?
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And this is just, it came, you mentioning hiking. I have been on a quest to tap into things that as you know, as a business owner, it's like everything has to like tie to a goal. What do you do just simply because you enjoy it? I feel like I don't read fiction because I'm like, I've always felt like, oh, it's a waste of time. Like I want to read nonfiction where I'm learning something or, pulling experiences from someone or something like that. I haven't written in so long. I've had like 7 blogs over the years. I haven't written. And I was just telling Chris last night, I was like, we need to do something that's just purely enjoyment. Like just for the sake of doing it. Like, let's go listen to music or I want to get back into writing. He bought us, like creative writing journals. And I want to know what you do simply for enjoyment. It's not tied to any goal or any outcome.
Was my mentioning hiking, were you like, oh, like hiking? Is that what made you think of that?
Yeah. And yeah. Like, do you write? I'm just trying to gather ideas of things I can start doing and just getting in. I want to feel inspired again. And it's been so hard to feel inspired when everything has to tie back to getting a new client, making sure the client's happy, making sure we've met, our deliverables, making sure we're successful, measuring KPI, all these things. And I haven't done something that's just like pure enjoyment in so long. And I don't even know what those things are. And so as someone who, you're incredibly busy, you have this great podcast, your agency, like that's huge. How did you make time to do things that you enjoyed when the stakes were so high and you were running such a huge business?
Oh, well, how did I do think? That was my first sign that I'm only spending time on my business.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I'm doing other things, like my biggest one was just this constant feeling of wanting my daughter to go to bed so I could get back to work. And it was like when 5 o'clock would roll around to go pick her up from school,
mm-hmm.
I would just feel anxiety. And Fridays were the worst. I'd feel such anxiety on Friday nights. Like,
mm-hmm.
oh, it's the end of the week. It felt like almost like a sport. Like Monday was the beginning of the game. And then Friday, how much I made was how much I made. I won't make any more this week. And I always wanted to make more. I always wanted to accomplish more, and I didn't. And I would just feel this like, oh. And one of the things I started to do was just be like, I mean, I think one of the big things is my daughter. There is nothing that my daughter's life is not a testimony to me. It's not. And you have to go into it as a parent, because she's going to fuck things up. And I certainly don't want people to say that's because of me, which means when she does great things, I can't want them to say it's to do with me. Like she's her own person, and there are way more elements than just me influencing her.
Right.
So it's just like, well, then my really only job is to just experience her, to just be there as present as I possibly could be. That's like my job, at least as I'm telling myself. Like, and she's learning from my subconscious. She's not learning from my like, now I want to talk about that, and this, she's like, okay, cool. But what I'm learning from is things I can't communicate from things you can't communicate. So if I'm just anxious all the time, that's what she's going to learn from. So I think, first of all, my anxiety is just like a huge teacher. Just like what I've been doing lately is just laying down in bed and just feeling. And it's really, really hard to not self-soothe. So I think that's one thing. It's like, what's something I do that I don't document, I don't try to get a client off of, is learning how to feeling without self-soothing. Just like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. This is so hard. This is, oh my gosh. And just sit there and just feel it for 2 hours. It's so, but kind of practically speaking, I do collage art.
Okay.
And I think that I do collage art that's actually really, really cool. And I don't share it. I would say in general, I don't share almost any pictures of my life, like my real life, with people.
Right.
And that was a big one, is being like, I'm going to stop documenting my life and putting it on social media. Because it always like made me look at life as, would this be something that, like, from a marketer, does this have mass appeal?
Right.
And then I'd be like, yes. And then I post it and be like, didn't get as much mass appeal as I thought. And so it would like almost dampen the experience.
Yeah.
Like, one just happened. My wife and I just had our anniversary. And I know for sure, if I was to post a picture of my wife and I on one of our anniversaries, people would like it. But what if it only got 1,000 likes instead of 2,000? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I just am not in a place yet where it wouldn't affect me, the engagement it did or didn't get.
Yeah.
So I think that's one, is just, I've been just trying to live life without trying to document it. Hiking, I could say hiking I do with no end, but I really just hike because it just feels so good to be in nature and to just be walking and to just be listening to something interesting, whether it's music or I create a lot of audiobook things. Like I'll take a 10-minute segment from an audiobook and I'll add music to it and almost turn it into a song. And I can't share it because all of it's copyrighted. So that's like another thing.
Yeah.
Is this answering?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. And I'm in a similar space of, not really doing a whole lot of documenting, but doing a lot of living. And I think being in marketing has kind of jaded me in that way, because it is all about numbers and how are people going to receive it? Or is there going to be a good discussion? Like, and it's just like, let things just be what they are. And so now I'm really trying to get to the point where I'm just enjoying my life and doing things that I find joy in, and tapping into my creativity without there being any end goal or, any guarantee that people will read it. I used to write when I lived in New York. I would sit on the train and write so many blog posts and just post them without any like concern of who's going to read it, if anyone would read it. I didn't check the numbers. Like, I just wanted to write and have a place where it lived. And I got away from that. And so I'm trying to find my way back to, unlearning everything that marketing tells us we need to do, to do. And even all the lessons that I tell my clients now, people who, they're starting their business, and we're talking about, engaging and what kind of content you're posting and things like that. And I'm like, but that doesn't feel right for me. And so just trying to figure out what my new normal looks like now that, I'm trying to just go in a different direction. And I do think I need to get back to some of the things I enjoy. Me and Chris we used to hike all the time. So I need to get back to that. I need to get back to writing, like just things that fill me up and me alone. And it's not for public consumption.
One thing on that goal, and this kind of ties back, I think, our original conversation, episode 1, you were talking about 2023, not following through on things. And we were kind of like diving deep in that. One thing that really helps for me is just being as honest as I can on how much time I have and how much time things take. Like, one is, I want to get good at the piano so bad. And I was, my big goal still is to be able to just create music. I think the thing I am the best at is music. But there's just, I don't have the money to do it. Maybe eventually you all will get to hear my music and then you'll believe me. Like, I don't have the time in my life right now to learn to play the piano. And it's like, so I got to let go of the anxiety of it being one path. And one of the things I realized in my business is like, I really have about 2 or 3 hours a day to put into my business. And rarely do I have 2 or 3 hours in a row. And so deep work, like, I really don't have much time for deep work in my business. So if I'm like, I have these 5 goals, each of those goals requires like 10 hours of deep work a week. And I'm trying to operate like I have 60 hours to do stuff. I don't even have 40 hours. I don't even have 30 hours. I don't even have 20 hours.
Yeah.
I really only have about 15 hours if I'm going to show up for myself and my family in the way I want.
Right.
So then if I only have 15 hours a week in my business, and this podcast alone takes 6, like, and this podcast doesn't make me a dime, doesn't make me any money. It makes me $10. My good friend Sadia donates $10 a month to the podcast.
Oh.
So it makes me $10 a month, but that isn't enough. So why do I keep doing it? So I think that's one of the things. It's like, my podcast from the beginning has been a spiritual journey that maybe might someday, quote unquote, make me money, but
it's pure enjoyment, and you're connecting with amazing people, and you're having these incredible conversations with people from all over. And that in itself is like, that's enough.
Yeah. I think if it's helpful if folks say to themselves, I need to give myself 9 hours on bed, because it's going to take you an hour to fall asleep. So and I'm not always good at this, but like, what if I structured my life around when I get 8 hours of a sleep time, not 8 hours of trying to fall asleep, but actual sleep time? Oh my God, does it improve our life? And then it's like, okay, and I want to sit, this is just mine. And I want to be able to say to people, like a friend, anybody, like my family and I, we sit down 7:00 to dinner almost every night. You're welcome to join us at any time. And then I have made enough food that anybody can join us. Okay, well, that right there takes this much time. Like, I think it's just what is actually really important, and not just in your business, but in your life, and how much time does it actually take? And then you're not always going to be able to go from thing to thing to thing to thing with
Right.
absolute focus. So how much time do you really have?
Yeah.
And I think it's sobering.
That's a great perspective. That's really good.
Well, Jenny, you're bringing a lot of things out in me. I feel like I've been just bursting to talk about. So I am feeling self-conscious that I've taken up more of the talking time than you have.
I don't want you to feel that way, because this is, I mean, this is, to me, this, I think it's a wonderful conversation.
Okay, then I will not let my insecurity feeling
Yes.
cloud
Don't listen to the head trash. It's just head
Okay,
trash.
there we go.
Yes. This is your
Well,
podcast after all. So I think your brilliance should shine through even when you do have a guest.
I appreciate that. That was one of the big, because I was like, if I'm going to keep doing this podcast, I am so sick of interviewing people. It was like, I've been interviewing people for 4 years, and I want to just have a conversation where we both get to
Yeah, and I mean, yeah,
things.
that was I asked you the question in all fairness. So, I mean, you shouldn't feel self-conscious. You answered my question. And it was incredibly helpful. It was great. I mean, um, I think what shined through was just intention, just being intentional about every little thing, every minute of your day, just trying to be intentional and thoughtful.
Well,
Thank you for sharing that.
it was my honor. It was my pleasure. Let's conclude this way. What's something musical? So a concert you've seen, a concert you're looking forward to going to, a song that's been on repeat, any sort of what's a place that music has been bringing you enjoyment?
So I actually, one of my goals, today I looked up, like live shows or live music in Richmond, so I can just get out. I'm feeling this big pull and urge to just be creative, like just to feel inspired. I'm feeling so uninspired lately. So I am going to get out and just start, even if it's a genre that I don't normally listen to, just go to a live show and just hear music. But I was in an agency owner's workshop last week. And there was a song called All Me by Kingsley, Kingsley. And it's like a funky, just fun, like techno, but like very soulful. And it has great energy. I love it. Kingsley All Me. And I feel like she's a mystery, because I went to her page, and I mean, I don't even know if this person really exists. I can't find any other music by her. And when I Google her, she doesn't come up. It's really strange, but the song itself is searchable on all platforms. But I went for a walk today. I played it on repeat. While I work, I play it on repeat. The techno beat, I think it's really good. Maybe it like reminds me of like the beats that you work to. It's not lo-fi. Maybe it's hi-fi. I don't know. But yeah, it gets me in the zone, and it makes me feel a little, like I got my creative spark. So that's what I'm loving these days.
That's awesome. Yep, I see. Whenever the first thing that comes up from somebody is Bandcamp, I'm always like, okay, because I put my stuff originally on Bandcamp, and this was, I think those of us who got into Bandcamp was like the like 2011s, 2012. So it says me like, okay, this person's maybe old school, like I am. But yeah, I see her right here.
Yeah, and that the song is just great. I mean, the lyrics are, a little bit sad, but it's so upbeat that you don't even feel sad. Those are the songs that I love, where it's like I'm dancing my life away, and they're like, actually, this person is like having a breakdown. But yeah, it's a great song. I love discovering just like little hidden gems. And of course, I'm waiting for Renaissance visuals and the concert. I will be there with bells on.
but hasn't been announced yet, right? Because I Google like all the time.
Yeah, no.
Tour. Okay, good. Just
Yeah, not yet. Not yet. But it's coming.
I saw somebody post on Twitter that I thought was hilarious, where it was like, what just got released on Hulu, or no, on Peacock, something from Beyonce.
Oh, On the
visuals.
Run, On the
Yes.
Run tour.
So they were like, Beyonce releasing On the Run on Peacock should tell us we need to be more specific in our prayers. I was like, that's
because no one asked for that.
I personally have been loving watching live concerts that were performed specifically to be recorded as a live concert. I have a big projector, and Saturday nights has been my time to watch live concerts. So when I saw it, I was like, I know nobody asked for it, but I'm so happy.
HBO used to have it on their platform. And so I used to watch it and run on the treadmill, and that kept me going. And then they took it off, and I was like, oh man, so now it's back. So maybe that's my excuse to start working out again.
Yeah. I went through, I watched during the Christmas time. I took 6 weeks off, and so I got to do a lot of fun things. So I watched Lemonade, the visual album. If you're wondering how to do it, there's a website where they have uploaded all of Beyonce stuff you can download. So I apologize to the Beyonce empire that I'm pointing to pirating. And then I put it on my phone, and then I used Apple, what's it called? Screen mirroring. And I screened it onto my Apple TV. That's how I.
Also, people love to hate on Tidal, but Tidal has every single Beyonce concert, live performance, every music video she's ever done, exclusive behind the scenes footage, exclusive music videos of Beyonce, Jay-Z, every single concert he's ever done, all of his music. I mean, people like to hate on Tidal, but Tidal has a very, very strong video element to it. They have exclusive documentaries, music documentaries. They have so much exclusive footage. So for people who do want to kind of go down a rabbit hole of all their favorite artists and their videos, download Tidal.
What do you hear people hating on about Tidal?
Because it's like it's just like, it's not Apple Music or Spotify. And so they're just like, oh, it's just, Jay-Z unveiled it, and he was a part of it. And then, no one really cared. And he's, I think people thought it was just a fad that like came and went, and no one really, Spotify already dominated everything. Apple Music already dominates. And so Spotify is like the little like stepsister. But it's my favorite. I got it in 2014. I haven't looked back. It's the only platform that has exclusive video content and just a robust library of footage.
How much more time do you have?
I have some time.
Okay.
I can go till 8.
Okay, let's do it. We'll go into the rabbit hole. We'll split this into a third episode.
Okay.
Okay. So, because I have thoughts.
Okay.
I also switched to Tidal when it first came out, and that must have been, maybe I switched no, I was already there when like the only place you could listen to Lemonade was on Tidal, when a lot of people switched and then can't. So I was on Tidal for a while, but I find even with Apple Music, nothing compares to Spotify's algorithm.
I agree.
I don't know how they do it, but they're like custom playlists for you, and the playlist they set up, no one, not even like, I think the only thing that's better about Apple is their sound, that they have spatial audio. But otherwise, why would you be on anything but Spotify? I think Tidal is probably better than Apple Music, but I think Apple Music, the only thing in my opinion Apple Music has going for it is how good it sounds when you listen to it with your AirPods. So
I have to note that difference. I'm currently on a 3-month free trial of Apple Music because of a playlist that Chris discovered that I love. But I'm canceling it after that. But Tidal pays their artists more than any other platform.
That's true. This is the only criticism I've heard that made me go, huh. So Jay-Z sold most of Tidal to Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just heard people say that like he was telling us this was like for the artist and this was Black created, and then he sells it to the guy who created Twitter. That's the only criticism I've heard. And I've bookmarked that in my brain. I was like curious. I think I've mentioned this in a different podcast episode where it's like, we should pull that thread. We should do a whole series on Tidal. So it's maybe we can do it together.
And you know, and I think Jack, I think I don't know if he's still going to do it, but I feel like I saw some type of thread that he did where he is kind of trying to do some type of collaboration with the Square/Cash App platform and Tidal so that artists can also make money selling their merchandise. Because right now, really, you know, like I think concerts and things was like the biggest way that they make their money off of their merchandise. And so having something built into the platform where they're getting paid for their music, but then they can also buy merch and whatever other collectibles from the artist directly to put more money into their pocket. I'll do some research on that. So for when we go on our deep dive, I want to have my facts straight. But if I find it, I will send it to you if I find that thread. And so awesome. if he did sell it to Jack Dorsey, I mean, I personally am like, aren't most businesses like created to eventually be sold? And you know,
especially tech.
Yeah. So it's like, that's not controversial to me. Yeah, I just went towards the platform that just had something that the others did not. Even though I do miss, I felt left out with the end of the year recap. Tidal did not give us one.
Yes.
Spotify just went above and beyond. I felt like the little kid, like hanging out the playground, looking through the fence, like, hey guys, I want to play.
Yeah. And to clarify for me, not taking that was more of a bookmark of like, okay, let me see where this perspective is coming from more so than like this is my thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. I also rewatched Janelle Monáe's visual album for Dirty Computer.
Okay. I've never seen that.
It totally makes sense that, because I'm trying to think when she started to get into, I mean, she's always been into movies, but you know, all her albums have been concept albums. So I actually had to watch it in 2 parts because I got like so wrapped into it. And I was like, is when I went to Joshua Tree for a week by myself. So I was kind of like, whoa, this is kind of like, I think I'm gonna watch this during the day. And then I watched Adele at Griffith Park.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
How amazing. Yes.
What were your reactions?
I cried. It felt so just, first of all, like seeing everyone who was there, it was just like, this is a testament to like her, just how powerful she is as an artist. The proposal had me bawling like a baby. And I actually went to it just, the whole thing just felt so majestic. And her voice is just, I mean, incredible. And like a month after I went on my, was it a month after? Yeah, I went on my bachelorette, or shortly after I went on my bachelorette to LA. And we did a Hollywood hike and we had the perfect view of the observatory. And I was just like, that's where Adele was. And she did her amazing concert. Yeah, that was wonderful. Phenomenal.
I was so one of the hikes, if you live in LA, you go to Griffith all the time. So I was there with my mom just a couple weeks ago and she's like, oh, Adele did a concert here. And I was like, bullshit, Mom. Bullshit. Where would people be? How could Adele do it? And then because I was imagining, I don't know if you've seen, there's that video of her where she did one in a park in London and there was like thousands and thousands and thousands. I was like, where would people stand? They would fall off the cliff. So then I saw, it's like, oh, it's a private one recorded for people to, then it made sense. And I watched it.
How amazing was that?
It was amazing. It was so awesome. And I loved Oprah's interviews in between.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I love Adele.
The song that I have been listening to over and over and over again is called Sister to Sister by eBay.
Okay.
It is, I highly recommend it, and I'm seeing them live. They're going on tour. So if you're looking to see a band, usually they're going to be in some sort of venue that's general admission. Those are my favorite shows to see, where everyone's just standing in a big clump together. So I highly recommend you see them. Some folks might, if you haven't heard of them, they are one of the folks who are when Beyonce has a bunch of people together at like that southern looking house with like the weeping willows. They're one of the people that are like,
okay. I have to go listen.
Yeah.
Well, see, I feel like we could just, like I said, talk for days.
Well, you're basically going to be the February.
Yeah.
We'll turn this into 3. We'll see.
Yes.
But we'll have you back. This was awesome.
Yes, it was. Always a pleasure, Tom. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's do this right here. What is your invitation to people who are listening? What would you like to invite them to do, to be, to consider, to think about, to evolve into? What's your invitation?
My invitation, and it's also to myself, is to, sorry if you can hear my dog pitter patter. My invitation is to shed ego and embrace change. And Chewy agrees.
And what was the last one?
I said, and Chewy agrees. He started barking. Shed ego and embrace change.
I feel like they're related.
I think because we get so hesitant to change because our ego we're so wrapped up in what, we've tied our identity, and sorry, I'm being very distracted by Chewy. I think we get hesitant to embrace change because of our ego and what we think it means, or what we think it says about us, and says about persona we've created, or says about the identity that we, things that we tie our identity into. And I think once we shed our ego, we will be more open to changing what our life looks like, changing the decisions that we made, changing even the friendships that we are a part of. I think when we shed our ego, so many amazing things can happen if we just remain open to being different and our life looking different.
I love that. I'm sitting on that. The thing that I'm reflecting on that we kind of brought up is all the way back to this first episode when we were exploring decisions, and you can make a wrong decision if the goal is to keep everything you've worked so hard for from falling apart. You can make a decision where it'll fall apart. So this is for me. If I start to feel anxiety that I'm making the wrong decision, then I'm going to remind myself that anxiety is coming from me trying to achieve something impossible, which is to keep everything on this earth will fall apart scientifically, spiritually. So like, it's impossible to think that I could build something that won't collapse, including my reputation and identity and all these things. So if I feel anxiety, then I'm caught up in that, because if my goal is to learn how to be so trusting and loving, and that I am willing to just be myself without anxiety all the time, like that can't be destroyed. You can't get that wrong. So I'm gonna take that kind of like mantra that we uncovered together with me into my days as I go forward. So that was a
Yeah.
gift that I want to thank you for.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Well, where can the good folks out there get at you?
You can find me on Instagram at Janna M. Joyner. And to hear more of my thoughts on just entrepreneurship, carving your own path, my Forever Fun Employed podcast is where you can listen and tune in and have a conversation over on my Instagram.
Boom. I love it.
Thank you.
Yes, we over here at the celebration have a storytelling experience. If you want to be a part of it, tomearl.me/DCM invite. Until next time, my friends, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you.
One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.